Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Angela Anderson, and I am the Director of Strategic Partnerships at Project Lead the Way. And I would like to welcome you to our June Career Connections event hosted by Project Lead the Way, our partners at Ascension and Burns McDonnell, and our PLTW Master Teachers. We've been working on this event for some time now, and our hope is that today that you will learn about how to connect with industry and build a robust community partnership team at your school site. So today we welcome core training participants from all across the U.S. to learn from our partners at Burns & McDonnell and Ascension. And I'd like to take a moment to give a huge thank you to Burns & McDonnell and Ascension for being dedicated supporters and partners with PLTW. I'd also like to give a heartfelt thank you to our PLTW master teachers in attendance for volunteering their time today. And finally, thank you all. Thank you to all you core training participants for taking time to attend our webinar today. Today, we're going to give you a brief introduction to Project Lead the Way and the career learning experience it provides for students. And then we'll talk about the important work that our partners at Burns & McDonnell and Ascension are doing, followed by breakout rooms where PLTW master teachers will share how they have built community partnerships at their school sites. So we'll start with a brief introduction of the PLTW pathways, and the pathways you see here on the screen before you should look familiar. I know each of you could probably identify the course you're doing core training in right now and where you would fall on this graphic. And we wanted to share this slide because PLTW has continued to grow and expand our offerings over the past 25 years. And we wanted to show everyone the current scope of the PLTW offerings. And we're also going to be doing breakout rooms by program in a few minutes. So just be prepared to self-select which pathway you're interested in attending. As many of you know or may be learning about in core training, PLTW uses a combination of exposure to design thinking, career learning, and transportable and professional skills in our curriculum. Additionally, built right into the curriculum are ways for students to be exposed to a diverse set of career opportunities, like the Career Connections profiles, which are short personal stories or videos of real community members sharing information about their professions. Many of these profiles are actually done by PLTW alumni. And we're always looking for new stories. So if you know of any alumni that would be good to feature, feel free to pass their information along to us. So before I introduce our partners, I want to talk briefly about how PLTW works with our corporate and industry partners. And as some of you may know, PLTW has many corporate and industry partners that fund PLTW programs across the nation through providing grant dollars to schools. But in fact, some of you may be here today or enrolled in core training because of a grant that your school received. But in addition to that, PLTW partners also work with schools in a variety of other ways. Some partners provide equipment and supplies to schools and districts. Others may provide mentoring, internships, or career learning opportunities, and still others may be curriculum advisors. So as you can see, there are a variety of ways that PLTW engages with and works alongside each of our partners. So now I'd like to introduce our partners joining us from Burns & McDonnell and Ascension and give them the opportunity to share about how they work with PLTW and how they work to support schools and educators in their communities. So first, we have Charlotte Lewin from Burns & McDonnell joining us today. Charlotte connects employee owners to their community through her role as Senior Community Relations Strategist at the Burns & McDonnell Foundation. She facilitates partnerships with nonprofit organizations across the country, organizes volunteer opportunities, and collaborates on Burns & McDonnell major giving campaigns. Her personal passions include STEM outreach, literacy, and blood donation. Charlotte lives in Overland Park, Kansas with her husband and 2 daughters. Please join me in welcoming Charlotte.
Thanks so much, Angela. Hello, everyone. Burns & Mac is really excited to be represented. We are a newer partner to Project Lead the Way, and we're so pumped to get engaged with this teacher audience. Again, I'm Charlotte Lewin. I'm here in our world headquarters location in Kansas City, Missouri. A little bit about my background. I actually started out as a STEM professional, went to Iowa State for civil engineering, worked in our transportation group for 4 years, and then kind of made a little bit of a career shift to start in our community engagement team. And we've really been working for a long time in this space, and kind of joined forces more recently, though, with a partner who was prior in a role in HR, which I think you'll find is typical for a lot of this type of partnership with companies. But now that we are in the same team, we are able to leverage both the funding and the time piece that our employees out in the community much better. Some things I like to do in my free time here in KCMO, big audiobook fan and podcast. There are a lot of parks around. I'm sure for a lot of you, summer means park and pool time. And I also love the Kansas City art scene. We've got a lot of momentum going and lots of cool things to do. So a little bit about Burns and Mac first, what we do. If you're not familiar with us, we are a family of companies and with over 10,000 engineers, construction and craft professionals, architects, scientists, and many more career options that design and build critical infrastructure all across the globe. We have an integrated construction and design mindset, which means not only are we on the front end, but we're also executing the build. And we offer full service capabilities around all of our clients' needs. We have been around for a while, since 1898, and we have more than 60 offices globally. Really unique thing about our company is that we are 100% employee owned. So it's very much a differentiator for our employee base. But when you think about your daily life, maybe how you got to school today, or how you even jumped on the Zoom call, the roads you drove, the lights that you turned on, the bridges you crossed, all of that stuff, it's likely that our STEM professionals played a role in helping accomplish that task. From clean power and water to highway design, environmental planning to defense building, cybersecurity and commercial design building, Burns and Mac STEM professionals are working with the clients all across the country and the world to help everybody's day go smoothly. So this map kind of represents a lot of the different markets. It's probably not even comprehensive of everything that we're up to, but you can see, our STEM professionals are out there helping, helping everyone kind of live in the best world. So transitioning to our partnership with Project Lead the Way and how we can kind of help connect students with those careers. Like I said, we're a newer partner and we jumped in big. So we just had our first round of grant distributions with Project Lead the Way, and are very excited to be supporting those partners here in the upcoming school year. And then through our connections kind of with our HR partner that's now on our team, we have a very long history in Kansas City and are hoping to grow that with this new partnership of supporting Project Lead the Way teachers in particular in getting connected to students and helping them understand all the variety of careers that are in STEM. And so some examples of that have been the senior showcases. So we've hosted those events and also provide mentors and judges. We love doing job shadows, so bringing students in for career conversations, and typically that's more in the high school level. We have lots of employees serving on advisory boards. Angela mentioned, kind of making sure that what students are learning in the classroom, if we have any tips or what we're seeing in candidates, how we can make that a more robust relationship. Where are the gaps and how can we fix those? Classroom presentations, of course. Girls in engineering specifically, we do a lot across our company around this demographic. We're happy to invite students into the workplace, not so much the project site. There are some limitations around that. And then we love the career conversations and career jumping, kind of that speed dating style of learning about new careers and making sure that we get those young professionals in front of students that are very close to being that next young professional. So we already have a lot going on in the PLTW space, and we would love for you to connect with us. You can follow us on our social channels dedicated to STEM, and we also have a website where we share different activities and demos you can do in the classroom. And we also profile some of our employee owners and their STEM stories. There are a lot of ways to get to a career in STEM and here at Burns and Mac, and we love to share the ones that are kind of a little bit more unique too. So if you visit that website, there's also an option to select more in the upper right, and that will allow you to be added to our email list to learn more about different opportunities that we have. But that's all I have for now. I think there'll be a brief Q&A. But again, thank you so much for this opportunity and looking forward to more PLTW in the future.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. It's great to see Burns and Mac partner so actively with schools and invest in the community. So we appreciate all you've done to partner with Project Lead the Way. And we're excited about the impact that you have on education for all students. So we'll field questions in a moment, but if you have questions for Charlotte, feel free to put them in the chat as well. But now we're going to transition and hear from Ascension. We have Margaret Elliott joining us today. Margaret is a clinical communication strategist on the Ascension marketing and communications team. Margaret works with clinical teams to ensure internal and external communications are aligned with national strategies. She joined Ascension in 2009 as a web communication specialist. Prior to coming to Ascension, Margaret spent 12 years in provider and web communications at Mercy. She has also worked as a nonprofit executive, fundraising consultant, and freelance writer. Margaret earned her master's and bachelor's degrees from Washington University in St. Louis. So please join me in welcoming Margaret.
Thank you very much, Angela, and thank you everyone for having me. I'm very excited to be with you. Just a couple things that aren't on this slide that I wanted to mention. On a personal note, I've been married to the same fine fellow for 35 years now, and I have lived in St. Louis since I graduated college, currently in a 104-year-old house. So I'm kind of fascinated by the long-term stuff. Even though my degrees are actually in art history and business, I've been able to work closely with the IT and clinical teams at Ascension because healthcare organizations, and Ascension in particular, are very actively supporting ongoing learning. And that's one reason that we are so very excited to be supporting and working with PLTW. Next slide. So a couple things about Ascension. First of all, we're a faith-based healthcare organization. We came about when several congregations joined together to sponsor us. And some of those congregations have hundreds of years of history dating back through America and also back to Europe. On the other hand, Ascension is relatively new. They were formed in 1999. So we have been a recent thing on the horizon. Our core mission is really to provide personalized and compassionate care for everyone, for all persons, but especially those who are most vulnerable and in need. And with respect to the way that we engage with our patients and each other, we ascribe to something that we call the ABIDE framework, which is an acronym for appreciation, belonging, inclusivity, diversity, and equity. So that's something that we carry through all of our time at Ascension. So next slide. Here's a little bit about what that actually looks like, though. As you can see, we have a really good size footprint across the country. We have a lot of people that we serve and also that work for us, and many, many lives, unique lives touched. And then also we contribute, even though we are a nonprofit, we also contribute money to care for persons living in poverty and in community benefits across the country. Our footprint includes our big markets, which are in Florida, Indiana, Michigan, Tennessee, Texas, and Wisconsin. But we also have much smaller ministries in places like Baltimore, Maryland, Dumas, Arkansas, and New Orleans, Louisiana. So that means a lot of opportunities for community partnerships. And across the country, we do work with a lot of community organizations, including Project Lead the Way, to build different programs that serve the needs of the audience that we serve. Next slide. So in its early days, Ascension has been compared by some to the 13 colonies that started America. We were a little bit disjointed and coming together for the first time. But in the mid-2000s, we began what we call our One Ascension journey, and we brought all of our many locations together under one name. And as you can see, this branding strategy has offered many advantages, including our ability to enhance our recruitment efforts across the different career paths and markets and facilities within Ascension. It also gives us a stronger voice to advocate for those in need. And we have a very strong presence in Washington, D.C. with our advocacy team. Next slide. So we have traditionally supported youth education and services, and I've got a few examples on this slide, but with respect to PLTW, our current president and CEO, Joe Impichike, served on the board, and our current chief marketing and communications officer, Nick Ragone, is a current board member, and we have worked with a number of the schools. We have also made plans for student showcases in some of our larger markets. Unfortunately, those plans got delayed by the pandemic, but we are hopeful of reviving them as all of us recover from COVID. And we are looking at St. Louis-based programs in the meantime, since that is our headquarters city. So we are very excited about the potential for the kinds of things that we can do. One thing that I have a fond hope for is that we have simulation centers in some of our markets, which I think the students would really find exceptionally interesting. They make just as much use of 3D printers as I've noted in the PLTW classrooms. So that would be a fun exchange if we can get that going. Next slide. So I think that when people think about healthcare, they think about doctors and nurses, and that's of course a natural thing. But Ascension has many, many more career paths than that. And in some of these career paths, we are desperate for new people. So part of our motivation for supporting PLTW is selfish in that we want to train the healthcare workers of the future. And these are just some of the disciplines that are greatly in demand. We do not have nearly enough genetic counselors to work with our cancer patients, for example. We also are in the business of designing apps and medical equipment, and people who have experience in Agile or web design are much in demand. We have foundations all over the country that need folks with fundraising skills, just a whole host of things. And of course, my field, marketing, we're just going gangbusters with the analytics now that are able to be extracted from what we learn as our audiences respond to us. So a lot of different STEM disciplines involved, as well as what my professor used to call the squishier skills that maybe I represent at times. So that is basically the breadth of our workforce. Next slide. I'm just looking forward to answering any questions that you may have. In the meantime, you can find our website at ascension.org, and that lists our social media handles, so you can follow us, and you're welcome to follow me on LinkedIn. I have a very active presence there and would welcome your questions on social media.
Thank you so much, Margaret. We had a question about contact information. So I know you just verbally said the ascension.org, but if you wanted to type any of that in the chat as well, Charlotte just typed her info in, so that would be fantastic. But it's great to hear about the work you're doing across the country to support education. We do have time for a couple of questions from Margaret and Charlotte. So if you have a question, feel free to drop that in the chat. And I see that Margaret just added their website as well for Ascension. So you have the Burns and Mac and Ascension contact info there. And one of the questions that we get a lot for folks starting community partnership teams, starting to reach out to industry, sometimes folks don't know where to start. So I was just wondering if either Charlotte or Margaret, I know each of you work with industry, with schools and community partnerships, but is there typically a volunteer coordinator or community outreach coordinator or someone at the industry site that schools and teachers and administrators could connect with if they're interested in a partnership?
I can start with this one. I know Burns and Mac's journey to get to kind of where we are, especially in Kansas City, kind of known as a leader in this space. it's not an overnight thing. And so on our end, it really started out of HR. And I would say a lot of our peers, that community engagement, if they're working towards building kind of that footprint in their community, it's going to be part of someone's multiple different roles at the company. And so Emily Roden, my peer, we were talking about this yesterday. And so, think about your network in your classroom. So I think if you identify maybe who some of those companies are in your community, do any of your students have family members that work there? If not, think about your grade level. Who else can you network? It's really that network piece. And then she also made a point to tell me, when she used to kind of have more of that earlier role when it was just forming, is that it's okay to be persistent. Again, on the corporate side, it's likely that if it's not well established, that it's maybe not high on the priority list of trying to make some of those connections. And so it might take a few emails, and she said that is totally fine. And kind of squeaky wheel gets the grease. So I think if companies don't have an established person like myself with a community engagement team, I think HR is a really great place to start if you make a cold call. Often they're going to be plugged in on who the leaders are in the outreach space, who's connected with what sort of nonprofit organizations, who's interested in doing this kind of outreach. So that would be my tip if you're looking, for brand new, have no connection, try to find that HR contact that you can build that relationship with.
Yeah, I would agree, although in Ascension's case, marketing and communications works closely with consumer and patient engagement on projects like this. And so with our organization, a lot of this comes from our national level and then cascades down to our different markets. Volunteer coordinators in our hospitals tend to be those who coordinate volunteers who work directly with patients, assisting them in those types of activities. Another thing that has been very successful for us is participation in a national event. We became the presenting sponsor a couple of years ago of the Ascension Charity Classic, which is a PGA level golf tournament. And that has enabled us to make a lot of contacts and connections in various communities that we serve. Even though the tournament itself takes place in St. Louis, it has a lot of ripples across the country. And then we have also established some of our own programs that have expanded beyond our local market. So we started the Your Move Chess program here in St. Louis, and that's expanded to Chicago, where we have Ascension, Illinois. So some of the national organizations like Ascension might have things that happen in one location, but that grow across different locations. So I would look for that kind of news on national websites as well.
Yeah, great advice. Thank you so much. Thank you, both of you, Charlotte and Margaret. We appreciate the time you spent with us today. I'm certain that this experience will resonate in folks' minds as they continue to grow and build out their partnership teams at their school site. So we appreciate your time, and thank you so much for joining us. We are now going to give you the opportunity to interact with PLTW master teachers and learn more about how they have built community partnerships at their school sites. So we're going to move to breakout rooms. When you get to the breakout rooms, master teachers will share what they have done to create industry partnerships and build community partnership teams at their school sites. You'll also be given the opportunity to ask questions of the master teachers in the breakout rooms, and then we'll come back to the general session to conclude. So you'll be given the opportunity to self-select your room, so decide which program that you want to learn more about and hear more from. And we will open the breakout rooms now. So go ahead and launch the breakout rooms. Looks like we have almost everyone back in the main room. It was great to pop in and out and hear a little bit from each group. And you guys were all sharing some phenomenal ideas on how you've already created community partnership teams at your site. So thank you so much to all our master teachers for sharing their experiences here today with us. I know some of you were sharing your email information in the chats and in the breakout rooms. If you weren't able to do that, feel free to put it in the chat here or share whatever you need to here in this general session before we all go. there was a lot of great information, and I know 20 minutes isn't a long time, so I hope you all can stay in contact with each other and learn more from each other throughout the school year. Before we go, I wanted to just remind you that we do have Summit coming in October, and we'll have workshops there on building community partnerships. We'd love to see you there and meet you in person. We'll also be having more community partnership related events in the upcoming school year. So check those My PLTW direct emails or our social media channels for those opportunities. But wow, what a wonderful event this has been. If we were together, I'd ask for a round of applause for Charlotte and Margaret and all our amazing master teachers here today. But since we're not, I'll simply just say thank you for coming. Have a great core training experience and a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you, everybody.